All right, thank you, everybody. We'll get started with roll call. Go ahead. Barb Mosden.
Here.
Jason Olive.
Here.
Laura Bruner.
Here.
Lindsay Love.
Here.
Joel Worth.
Joel Worth.
Here.
Thank you, everybody. Now we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th board meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 regular board meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Could I get a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers?
I make a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion carries. Mr. Narducci, is there any correspondence?
There is no correspondence at this time.
All right, thank you. That brings us to my favorite part of the meeting. We get to hear from our student body presidents. First, we'll have Havana Baez from Castile High School.
Good evening, members of the board and Mr. Narducci. I'd like to start off by thanking you so much for having me. And then hello, everyone. I'm Havana Baez, as you might have just heard. I'm the student body president at Camille Castile High School. And I'm here tonight to give a presentation regarding some of the more fun stuff happening at Castile. I was here in October to present, so this will just be an update as to what's been happening since then. First off, I would like to recognize our amazing National Honor Society and Interact Club at Castile High School, who were just over at Feed My Starving Children on Monday. Interact Club is a club for students interested in helping out their communities and making a difference in the world. These two clubs came together and worked hard to benefit someone else out there, and I find that very inspiring. Next up, I would like to show off our Winter Spirit Week that we held. It was from December 6th to December 10th, and our student council worked really hard to come up with these days. With finals approaching and growing stress on students, we think it's super important to make sure that there's something fun going on. So first we had Monochrome Monday, which is where essentially students just dress up in one color of their choice, just all the same color. Next was Country vs. Country Club on Tuesday, which you wear like Western gear, or you wear like tennis or golf clothing, just something more preppy. Next, we had Wednesday, which was Character/Celebrity Day, where we encourage students to dress up as their favorite character from a show or a movie, or just their favorite celebrity. Next, we had Ski Resort Day on Thursday, which students would just wear snow clothes, boots, hats, gloves. That one was my favorite. But Friday, we had First Letter of Your Name Friday, which was something like I hadn't really heard of, but essentially you dress up as something that starts with the first letter of your name. So for example, Olivia could dress up as an orange, and Harley could dress up as Hannah Montana, and so on and so forth. I would say this Spirit Week was a huge success, and Spirit Week's my favorite because I just love seeing how creative everyone can get and the participation from our students. So during our Spirit Week, we had some winter-themed lunchtime activities. First up, we had an intense race of who could finish a full sugar cookie and a cup of eggnog first. It was pretty funny and entertaining to watch how fast some people could do it. Next up, we had a gingerbread house making competition. We gave students a bag of supplies for the houses and then gave them about 5 to 7 minutes to complete them. Then we had some teachers come and judge. This was one of the winning gingerbread houses. Lunchtime activities may seem silly, and they are, but it's just nice to have something to help people like smile and laugh and just get through their day. Next up, we held our junior high Clash Wars. If you don't know what Clash Wars is, it's something that Castile High School does as a battle of the grades, in which the grade levels compete in a series of mini games and activities and win points for winning them or just for being spirited. And since Castile is a junior high and a high school, we want to make sure that our junior high doesn't feel like gypped or kind of left out. So some of our student council members got together to create a junior high senate, which essentially we just get to hear their ideas and help them plan events and stuff. So this was actually our first junior high Clash Wars, and we are very proud. But anyways, we had 7th grade representing Xbox, and 8th grade was PlayStation. The kids got to battle in a number of games, from relay races, life-size Hungry Hungry Hippos, dodgeball, and my personal favorite, the dance battle. The turnout was amazing, and we had 100 7th graders and 80 8th graders, which was about the max that we could have had, which is really exciting. This was so much fun to watch, and I was just really happy to see all the middle schoolers having fun, just so they know that they're a part of our school too. So next up, here's a list of our winter sports for this year. We started out their seasons by continuing our tradition of making goodie bags for each varsity team member for each sport, in which student council gives them a Gatorade, a granola bar, and oftentimes a super cute personalized goodie bag. First up is women's soccer, who is currently undefeated. Also, as you can see in the top middle picture, they were just in California over New Year's for a tournament. Next up is men's basketball, who gets to enjoy what I would deem as one of the most spirited student sections around. It's always a great turnout for those games, and students sure know how to cheer. Our men's team is currently 11-7, so let's keep working hard. Okay, next is women's basketball, who just celebrated their bittersweet senior night with a win against Campo. Their record is currently 14-8, and they're ranked number 2 in their league. Next is our amazing wrestling program. They were just at the Sun Devil Classic tournament and won there, as well as having 7 individual winnings, as well as 2 wrestlers being named the outstanding wrestlers of the tournament. Super proud of them, and they just keep doing really good. Men's soccer is also doing really good right now. They're currently undefeated and ranked number 1 in state. Just the other week, they played the number 3 team, which is also the team that won state last year, and they won 1-0. I hope they keep up the hard work, and hopefully they can bring another state championship to Castile. Lastly is track, which is currently just in preseason, but I can't wait for the season to officially start and for the Colts to get out there and dominate. Now I'd like to tell you guys about some stuff that we have coming up. First is our MORP and MORP Spirit Week. For those of you that don't know what MORP is, it's prom spelled backwards, and it's just a school dance. It's super fun. It's supposed to be more casual than like homecoming or prom. Our MORP is going to be on February 26th, and it is Western themed. We're calling it Colt Country Thunder. Students are going to be able to enjoy activities and food trucks, as well as a DJ and dancing, obviously. After homecoming, students have been begging for another dance, so I'm really excited to be putting this one on, and this will be our first MORP, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. We also have some exciting spirit days brainstormed for MORP, such as Cowboys vs. Aliens, Denim, like Overall Day, Animal Print Day, and many more. Next is prom, which will happen sometime in April. I have little to no information to share with you about prom, since it's a tradition that the juniors will plan prom and keep it a secret from any of the seniors and pretty much anyone else at the school. But all I can say that it's coming soon, and I can't wait to share it with all my peers, so hopefully the juniors do a good job. Just kidding, I know they'll do a good job. Okay, we also have junior high and high school winter assembly coming up, which is everyone's favorite. We'll play games as well as talk about important information, and we present all of our winter sports teams at the assembly. Next up is one of my absolute favorite traditions at Castile. It's the competition previously known as Mr. Colt, which is now the Colt. It's in a way a pageant where students get to, flaunt their skills and accomplishment in a fun way and decide who will become the Colt. It's always so much fun to watch, and a lot of the times, the skills that people will present on stage will be pretty funny. So if you guys want to come out to that, it'll be on February 25th, I believe. Lastly is district convention. We've been working hard at Castile to hold our end of the work to make district convention happen. And even though it's a little delayed, I'm so excited and can't wait to see everyone's costumes and smiles and just to see all the leaders there hard at work. But thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much to the governing board for having me once again. I love coming to these meetings and telling you guys about what's happening at Castile. I would also like to give a quick shout out to Mrs. Fredrickson, Ms. Rosano, and Mr. Phillips, because without them, none of what you just saw would really be possible. And they're kind of the ones that put in a lot of the heavy lifting behind what we get to do. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Havana. Next, we're going to have Malasia Hardy in Chandler High School.
Good evening, board. It's very nice to be back. I just want to start off by introducing my council. So I'm going to start with my student body, and I'm going to go all the way down to my freshman class. We may not have everybody here, but we will have everybody represented. So my vice president is Dakota Rains. Rosie Lopez is our spirit commissioner. Seneca is our secretary. Ariella is our treasurer. Ricardo is our community outreach. Olivia is our publicity manager. Then for our senior class, we have Dana, who is the senior class president, and then Jada is the publicity manager. For our junior class, Cami is our president. Allison Slater is the spirit commissioner. Allison Alfredo is the secretary. Maddie is treasurer. Bianca is a representative. Then for our sophomore class, we have Emily Dominguez as president, Jessica as the spirit commissioner, Ava as secretary, Rayon as treasurer, publicity manager is Emily P. And then for our representatives, we have Kiara and Lexi. And finally, we have our freshman class. Addison Martinez is the president, Destiny is vice president, Kara is the spirit commissioner, Zadie is secretary, Anna is treasurer, Amy is publicity manager, and then for our representatives, we have Kendall and Riley Rains. This is my council for the year, and I'm so proud of what they've done and what they are going to continue to do, and I'm happy to present them to you.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for coming down, everybody.
And then I also have my advisors. So now I'm going to give some updates on what we've been working on and then what's to come throughout this school year. For the first time ever, we've had to combine two of our major assemblies, our Fall Sports Assembly and our Homecoming Royalty Assembly. So we originally had these planned as separate events, but due to rain, we had to cancel our Fall Sports Assembly, but we were able to persevere and find a way to combine both of the events. We were able to do this by having two sessions out on our football field. We had the seniors and juniors on one side and then the freshmen and the sophomore on another side in order to socially distance everybody and keep everybody safe. Each assembly was about 45 minutes. And then in order to keep our audience really engaged, because it is such a big field and it is hard to direct where you look, what we did is we had myself and our spirit commissioner on opposite sides of the field speaking to both sides of the audience in order to keep everybody engaged and keep everybody looking and going back and forth. It was also really beneficial to have it out on the field. It gave us more space to space out our teams as well as just keep everything flowing from on and off the field. One of my favorite events that we have done this year is the 8th grade CTE tours. So the 8th grade tours are something that we have every year. This year it was over the course of 3 days. We had partnered up with our Link crew, who are typically in charge of the freshman orientation and welcoming our students to the school. So what we did was we had 8th graders from, I believe, 5 different junior highs come to our school over the span of 3 days. And we gave them tours of all of our career and technical education classes that's available to them. So they make informed decisions when they get to Chandler High and they know what's available to them. So there was 4 different parts that student council had. We had the cleanup and setup of the gym. That's a fun part. And then we had the student panel, which was my favorite part. I remember being in 8th grade and watching the students go up, and I was like, I want to be there. and I ended up there, so that was really fun. What we did for the student panel is we had a bunch of different students from all walks of life, different programs, come and answer some questions and give some advice, because high school isn't the same for everyone. It's different for everybody, so what we wanted to do was really try and connect with a bunch of different students instead of just one type. So the students involved was myself representing student council. We had a marketing student, we had a film and football student, an automotive student, an FFA, and student council student. Another part was the tour guides. So our link crew had first pick on tour guides, but I was able to squeeze in there. So over the span of 3 days, I was able to connect with 3 different groups of 8th graders and lead them from class to class, as well as talk to them in between the classes and answer all their questions about high school. I think one of my favorite groups, a young lady asked me, well, she made a comment. She was like, "You're not too different from us." I'm not that old. I had questions from sports to late policies, lunches, and all sorts of academics, and I really felt like I made a difference and connected with the 8th graders. Even though I won't be there next year, it was nice to wave them off on the bus and know that they'll be safe for next year. And then finally, which I think is probably one of the students' favorite part, is free shirt. Every year, Student Council gives out a free CHS shirt to every single 8th grader that has a list of all of our CTE tours on the back, so they don't forget. And then we encourage every junior high to have a blue out at their school at the following day or the following week in order to really show, like, come to Chandler High. We're the best out there. Come on. Another annual assembly, there's a lot of assemblies. We love our assemblies. We love showing off our students, is the Unity Assembly. This is an assembly that really promotes our diversity for our student population, and it's very important to have representation of every group at this assembly. So what we do is we open up auditions to our entire student body, and we have them submit a short little video of them performing or speaking about their culture, and then we pick and then have them perform. So this year, in order to keep all of our students safe, we were able to have our film class live stream the event. So the Chandler Center for the Arts is where it usually takes place. It's a very small location, and when we're able to fill it up to the very top, we even have 3 to 4 assemblies on the normal. So this year, because of our wonderful film class, we were able to do 1 30-minute assembly, which was amazing. Our teachers were able to click on a link provided and then watch the entire event, which was amazing. Some of the acts that were there, we had a student perform the Vietnamese national anthem. We had the Wasomi dance group for BSU. Our wonderful choir troublemakers performed, our jazz team, our advanced Modaz dance group. We had students on the guitar and banjo, and we always finish it off with our daycare kids. Student Chandler. Chandler High has a daycare for one of our CTE programs for students to learn how to work with kids and get hands-on experience. And every year these daycare kids work their hardest and perform a song. And it's always everybody's favorite part. Today, what we did was the first rollout for the one-to-one program, which I am very, very excited for. Due to COVID, we've really learned how hard it is for every student to have equal opportunity when it comes to education, especially when it goes technical, when it goes electronic. So what we rolled out was a one-to-one program where every student in our school gets a computer for them. It'll suit their needs. It'll help them keep in contact with their teachers, keep up on assignments, and all sorts of stuff. I know personally I had problems with Wi-Fi. I'm super excited to get a laptop that works, and so I don't have to worry about asking for extensions because my Wi-Fi was out. Now, coming up in the future, every quarter we have quarter committees. So we do this in order to keep track and keep moving forward. As one committee finishes their event, they're either giving a new assignment or they're redistributed in order to help us move on to our next. So here are some of our third quarter committees. We have the district convention, which Chandler High always hosts. We have a little bit of a delay, but Chandler High is in charge of the food part. Super excited. We get to taste a lot of wonderful food from the district. Next up, we have our state convention committee, So state convention is like a bigger version of our district convention. District convention is for the junior highs and elementary schools, whereas state convention's for the high schools. There we get to select a certain amount of our students to head over and then really network with different student councils from across the state. The last time I went was my sophomore year, and I met so many different people that I can connect with, and I'm super excited to reconnect with and share some ideas, whether regarding like dance and other activities. Next up is our annual talent show, which we haven't had since I was a freshman, so three years ago. It's the very first event that any freshman in student council plans. It's to kind of prepare all of our freshmen for bigger events such as prom and graduation. And it's one of the fun ones. We have people do auditions, and then it's called Chandler's Got Talent. Next up, we have our bonding committee. So we're a very firm believer that in order for us to function well as a council, we have to be able to stand each other. We have to be able to get along and learn how to work well, learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. So we have a bonding committee designated for planning like events in order for us to get together outside of school in an open environment and just enjoy each other's company. And then finally, we have our sports assembly, our spring sports assembly. That one will not be combined with anything, but we give props to all of our spring sports as well as what they are going to accomplish, what they have accomplished, and we really promote their games because we want lots of spirit over at Chandler High. That is all for tonight. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I am open.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Do you have anything? All right, great. So the next thing we're going into is presentation by Dr. Gilbert.
Mr. Vice President and members of the board, ARS 15977, which is Classroom Site Fund, requires that the school district governing board must adopt a performance-based compensation system in order to allocate funds from the Classroom Site Fund. The 2021-2022 Proposition 301 Pay for Performance Plan has no changes, extensive changes from last year's plan, and has been approved by the District Super Prop Committee. Anticipated payment of $3,200 per staff member to be paid out in 2021-2022. No professional development requirements, and the COSD Pay for Performance Plan has two components, which is based on the first 50% of $1,600 is contingent upon the Journey 2025 District Achievement Goal, and the second 50%, which is also $1,600, is based on the teacher performance classification. Approval of this performance-based compensation system will be requested during the February 9th, 2022 regular board meeting. With that being said, I will give you the presentation. She gives me a minute. So thank you for this opportunity to share the 2021-2022 COSD 301 Pay for Performance Plan. First, let's start and look at what the requirements are for our pay for performance as it is bound by legislation. So when we look at ARS 15977, Section C, a school district governing board shall vote on performance-based compensation system that includes the following elements: school district performance and school performance, individual teacher performance, measure of academic progress toward the academic standards, dropout and graduation rates, attendance rates, rating of school quality by parents, rating of school quality by students, input from teachers and administrators, and also approval of the performance-based compensation system must be based on an affirmative vote of at least 70% of the teachers eligible, and then an appeals process also has to be available if funding is not approved for a teacher so that they can actually appeal, and that appeal also goes to the Super Prop Committee. And then we have regular evaluations of the plan, and we bring it back to you as the governing board. So when we look at the updated plan for the 21-22 school year, the anticipated payout is $3,200 per staff member, and that will be paid out this year. Again, in this year, this is the second year that there is no professional development required. The plan has two components, as I mentioned initially, and that is contingent on the Journey 2025 District Achievement Plan, as well as 50% is based on the teacher performance classification. If a teacher receives on their evaluation highly effective or effective, the teacher receives 100% of the money. If they are developing in their first 2 years, it's 75%. If it's developing teacher in 3 years or plus, it's 50%, and if you're ineffective, it is 0. So when we look at how do we meet the requirements of the Journey 2025 district measure, and the first 50%, the district Journey 2025 achievement measure will be utilized to award the pay for performance. Journey 2025 metric meets the legislative requirements established in ARS 15977, as well as the Journey 2025 district plan has shown to be a reliable measure for our staff. Measures to receive the stipend will be based on a percentage of points possible on the Journey 2025 achievement measure, and I'll share a little bit more on that. The primary means of earning these points is toward the performance goal. We'll be utilizing a 4-point rubric in the 12 areas in the district strategic plan, the 2025 strategic plan, for a total of 48 points. And so it is the possible of the 48 points, it's using a percentage to determine if they've met that goal. So when we look at the areas to note on the District Journey 2025 plan, and in working with the super prop, these were some of the things that we talked about that were changes that we needed to make sure that when the documentation went out to the staff to review and to vote. You'll see the AASA, which is the Arizona Academic Standards Assessment, which is a name change because we went from AZM2, now it's the new AASA. School City and Dibbles 8 is now utilized by elementary because we moved away from ATI Galileo. And then areas to note in red, and you'll see on the document as it relates to the Journey 2025. Areas in red have been shared with you previously as Dr. Fletcher shared the Journey 2025 measures and plan with you. You'll see that there are red areas that we wanted to keep mindful of because of things that might be out of our control that can affect whether or not that data is available. So when we look at the Journey 2025 achievement goal, which can be found on our district website under our strategic plan, you'll see that there are the 12 areas that I shared. It's based on a rubric of 1 through 4. You'll see that in the areas you have equity for 1, grade level proficiency, 3rd grade ELA, college and career ready, dropout rate, employer choice. You see these are the 12 areas that we utilize currently in our district to meet our strategic plan. Also, you'll see that to the right where you collect your points, there are some that the points are immediately go in, and you'll see that's the area in black. But you also see, for example, in number 1, you have an average score that is for 1A through 1F. So each of those areas are counted in their area, and then they're averaged into a scale. And I'll break that down a little bit so you can see what's in there. So again, it's all based on possible 48 points, and then there's a percentage of those points that determines if you've met that goal. So when we break it up, for example, when we look at the equity rubric, you'll see perception of school climate, which is a survey that our students are able to use, school discipline policy, what is happening on our campus as it relates to discipline, access to advanced programming. So these are the pieces that are scored on that rubric, and then there's a total point based on that average of those points for that particular area. So that happens through all of the Journey 2025 strategic plan. Then we'll get into college and career readiness. You'll see a lot of these are all found at the high school level, which is why we believe that these areas are important, but we don't want this to be the main of the actual strategic plan. So all of these are averaged into one score. So you'll see that the service learning hours are in red, because we know that with COVID and over the time, the last couple of years, it has been difficult for our students to be able to do the community service hours that they have done in the past. And so We are still measuring this, but it's something that we have to keep our eye on as we get toward the end of the year and see if there has been something that has hindered them from being able to do that. College, the community college pipeline data, making sure that we have that data and we're able to collect that information as we work with our community colleges around us. So we're always making sure that we are prepared that this may be an issue of collecting this data. And so as a super prop committee, we wanted to make sure that this was put forth ahead of time so that if we have to have the conversation once we're done, we're there. You'll see for dropout rate, the governing board, actually, I believe it was a couple board meetings ago when Dr. Fletcher presented the strategic plan. Chronic absences aren't going to be counted in this total this year because of the issue that we have in the sense of attendance. And so that was already pulled out of this plan. Then you see you have graduation rate as well as an employer of choice. So when we get into how to determine these scores, so we know that there are 48 points total. So it is based on the first 50% is based on a percentage of those points. So if you earn 90% of the 48 points, you will receive all of the money, which is $1,600. Let's say of the 48 points, you only earn 80 or somewhere between 80 and 89.9%, then you would receive $3,200 of those points. Now, when we look at performance classification as it relates to the second 50%, and that is based on teacher evaluation and the teacher performance level, you'll see classifications are determined by a compilation of data collected from the following areas. So one being the instructional practice evaluation, which is weighted by the elements of the evaluation, deliberate practice, which is the growth plan that a teacher works with their administrator and puts together for that school year. Student achievement, which is growth and proficiency, which is looking at the site performance on their assessments at the school, and it is based on that information of the student growth, of the student achievement. And we're using the 2020, 2021 student data for that. And then you have the professional responsibilities of the teacher within the evaluation. So when we look at it from a visual perspective, to look at the percentages of how that's weighted, you'll see that the instructional practices, which again is part of the evaluation tool, is 55%. The deliberate practice, which is their growth, is 6%. Student achievement is 33%. And the professional responsibilities is 6%. And this portion of the plan is developed by Human Resources to make sure that our evaluation tool and as well as what is in legislation of this is in alignment, and we are meeting the standard of that. So when we look at the staff agreement, as required by ARS 15977, Section C, the approval of the performance-based compensation system based on the affirmative vote of at least 70% of the teachers eligible to participate in the performance-based compensation system. So in order to do that, the staff agreement form, as well as the pay for performance question and answer document, was sent out, as well as a PowerPoint to be able to share this information. Were distributed on October 13th to all of our staff at the schools to be able to review and vote on this plan. The staff agreement forms were returned to site administration in late October so that we can collect that information to determine the vote of the staff. With that being said, we've had over 99% of the eligible teachers voting were able to vote, and they agreed on the plan of 99% approval. With that, do you have any questions?
Anybody? Ms. Mostyn, Mr. Worth?
Yes, I'm fine.
All right.
I just had one question. On the chart that had some of them blacked out, it had communication. I was wondering what specifically that was, right? There we go. And why is it blacked out?
Well, the reason that it's blacked out and all the areas are blacked out is because there's no sub area for that.
Okay.
That's going to total the points. And I would have to look at the actual rating from the communication piece. I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to also thank the Super Prop Committee who put in time and make sure that when we evaluated this and getting the information out to the staff, we were clear on what it needed to look like and making sure that everybody was involved. So thank you.
Okay, great. So that brings us to citizens' comments. Mr. Locke, could you summarize the comments presented online?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Olive and members of the board and Superintendent Narducci. As a courtesy, we provide an opportunity for the public to submit citizen comments electronically on any topic. We've heard from about 6 people this week, since our last meeting on January 12th. Our feedback this week centered on the topic of health and safety. Submitting comments electronically provides our governing board members time to read and prepare prior to the meeting. This format also provides the board an opportunity to ask clarifying questions to the administration. You have the submissions verbatim for your consideration. They are also available on the website for public review.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we've gotten to public comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to review the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Tonight, we don't have very many speakers, so we'll give 3 minutes apiece. Our first one is...
I'll read them off. Yeah, that's fine. I'll help you out. Yeah, our first speaker tonight is Kurt Rohrs from Chandler to talk about the budget.
All right.
Thank you. My name is Kurt Rohrs. I'm a parent in this district, and I have some comments to share regarding the budget control. We're currently in an inflationary cycle in both our local and national economies. That means that costs will rise for many of the goods and services that the district relies on. In addition, the district is facing a statutory funding cap mandated by the Arizona State Constitution. This indicates that spending should be tightly controlled. There are 50,000 line items in the district budget. Common sense would dictate not all of them are essential. Many of them are discretionary funding that does not and should not have to be spent. The board and district staff are expected to exercise prudent financial discipline in sorting out essential programs from those that are nice to haves, shiny new things, and virtue signaling statements of political correctness that have very little demonstrable value. Perhaps the district is trying to do too much outside the primary mandate of educating children, causing unnecessary distractions, loss of focus, and declining academic performance. Reducing the amount of less than essential programs should also lighten the load on your overworked and stressed out teachers, allowing them to focus more fully on basic educational achievement of students that is expected most out of them. The board has a solemn obligation to control the spending of taxpayer dollars been granted to the district. There is no mandate to go along to get along or not to rock the boat in making these serious and impactful decisions. Hard questions must be asked and unpopular decisions must be made. The board must lead in demonstrating fiscal discipline, not follow. Every penny spent by the district should be considered as an investment with a definitive expected return. Budget items must be fully analyzed, rationalized, and prioritized. Excess funds must never be spent to justify budgeted amounts. This is fiscally irresponsible. Some district spending is being addressed by the Citizens Budget Committee meeting now ongoing. However, this only represents $20 million in new spending out of a $334 million current operations budget, only about 6% of the total. It is misleading to represent that the citizens have much impact if they only review 6% of the budget. The entire budget must be presented for a review in order for your taxpayers to have input of any real significance. All district spending must be fully transparent to the public, and it's expected to be tightly controlled. Thank you.
Next, we have Nicole Eidson from Chandler to talk about ESSER funding.
I have some paperwork I want to make sure you guys here. Good evening. My name is Nicole Eidson, and I'm a parent here in Chandler.
and I'm going to say that I'm excited I get 3 minutes today. It was interesting that the schools and the districts were so vehemently following the CDC policy on quarantining and masking. And it seemed like even though there was so much information out there that told us that the masking doesn't work and quarantining the kids, there was a lot of learning loss in regards to that. It just didn't seem like it made any sense. And I kept wondering to myself, what is driving this? Why are we doing this when we know there's learning loss and we know that masks don't help at all? I started looking into the ESSER 3 funds, and what I started out finding was this first letter that you guys have. It's the letter to Honorable Doug Ducey from Cardonas, Secretary of Education, federal level. It basically says, Governor Ducey, we know that you are limiting the schools to be able to mask their kids and following the CDC guidelines that we've given. And the ESSER 3 funds actually there's requirements in the ESSER 3 funds that they follow the CDC guidelines in order to get the ESSER 3 funds. So in order to get all the districts to get the ESSER 3 funds, they have to follow the CDC guidelines, as well as provide a plan every 6 months as to how they are going to continue to keep the schools safe and how they are going to continue to follow the CDC guidelines. There's also the ESSER 3 funds. Also, there is requirements.
30 seconds.
There's requirements for the ESSER 3 funds that at least 20% need to be spent on social emotional learning, set aside for requirements. Also, there needs to be learning loss set aside for the ESSER 3 funds. And in the last page of the documents, it says that the safe return to in-person instruction must be followed. So why are we're selling out our children for ESSER?
Time has expired.
Next, Leslie Ames of Chandler, talk about mask, quarantine, and teacher ethics.
Hi, I am Leslie Ames. I've spoken before. I was not planning on being here tonight. I would have written something out. I'm a little disappointed because you guys I was a teacher for 16 years. I don't even need this. I have emailed. You guys say that it's not happening in our classrooms, but it is. And I don't agree with some of the things that are going on. The first thing is my kid lost at seat roulette, and they told her that because her friend's mother, well, they didn't come out and say it, but they said because Elle was exposed to somebody who was exposed, she had to wear a mask. I showed up at Bogle. I talked to the assistant principal. I talked to the office manager. I told them who I was and what I do for a living now because I don't teach anymore. And I explained to them, I don't want my kid wearing a mask. It doesn't help. CDC has come out. The cloth masks don't work, yada, yada, yada. We've heard it all. And I don't understand why it's still an issue. If it's the teachers union, as I told them at Bogle, they should be afraid of people like me because not only have I been a teacher and I know what the teachers union is about, but I also have dealt with the flight attendants union and the pilots union. And as long as you have your ducks in a row, we're good. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the way that some of the staff dresses. And I have emailed you, and the thing that really irritated me was the turkey bowl, the teacher showed up in Lululemon to school. We have 10, 11, 12-year-old boys that see these teachers, and when a teacher is dressed inappropriately, and some of this comes from the principal at Jacobson, Mrs. Wolf, who sent out an email, not once but twice, because then the same teacher, Mrs. Garcia, showed up at the jingle jog ready for a triathlon. And I'm going to tell you, she's cute. She has the physique of a runner, and I don't agree with that. And I want to know why, when I called HR the first time, nobody went over to Jacobson to see what I was talking about and how inappropriate it was. And then it happens again. So that tells me that everything I talk to you guys about falls on deaf ears, and you say it's not happening in our schools,
30
but
seconds.
it is. So I'm asking, why didn't someone from HR go over there the first time I called at Thanksgiving, well, the day before Thanksgiving?
I can't comment to that, but I can correct it. HR did address it, and we will look into your latest concern.
Well, it happened again.
Mr. President, can you ask the speakers to speak into the microphone because I can't hear half of what they're saying?
I'm sorry, thank you.
Next is Katie Nash from Gilbert to talk about the aggregate expenditure limit.
So weird not to have to be rushed like everybody else said. Good evening. Normally I'm up here advocating for Chandler students and staff, but today I'm pleading to you on behalf of all of Arizona's public school educators, students, and generations to come. Once again, the future of Arizona is in the hands of our state legislature. We are facing an unprecedented funding crisis if we do not override the aggregate expenditure limit. While in Chandler, we may weather this storm temporarily, the same is not true across the state. If we do not override this limit, it will cripple districts who may have to slash millions of dollars from their current year budgets, starting April 1st. This might mean cutting staff, cutting salaries, cutting stipends, etc. It will cripple our local economies. As educators, we can call and email our legislators, but we need support from the education community to amplify our voices. We need to work together to make sure that the aggregate expenditure limit is overridden this year and come up with a permanent solution. We are still 49th in education funding, even with the governor's 20 by 2020 plan. We have made some advancements in public education funding in the last few years, but that may all come to a halt on March 1st if we do nothing. We are calling on you, as governing board members, to demand the state legislature solve this problem and adequately fund our public schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think that concludes our citizens' comments for tonight. Next, we have the consent agenda. Mr. Narducci, what do you have for us today?
Vice President Olive, members of the board, we just have a few items tonight. So out-of-state student travel pre-planning, out-of-state field trip pre-planning forms for Hamilton High School and Willis Junior High School are provided to you. Following governing board pre-approval, Dr. Gilbert will monitor trip assignments before providing final approval to the sites. The governing board will receive a summary of the final travel arrangements quarterly, and final approval will be determined on a case-by-case basis and will be contingent upon the current health guidelines within the communities that they're visiting. Under monetary gifts, we request the approval of the monetary gifts generously donated to Chandler Schools totaling $37,485.09. Kitchen equipment for Hamilton High School, we've had that discussion prior, requesting board approval for equipment that will be purchased for the rebranding of Hamilton High School's kitchen. The equipment will be purchased from Arizona Restaurant Supply, utilizing the Mojave contract 17K AZRS 0714 in the amount of $268,195.42. That's also including tax. We also have kitchen equipment for our central kitchen, our food service delivery, requesting board approval for equipment that will be purchased for the remodel of the central kitchen equipment, and this will be purchased from Arizona Restaurant Supply utilizing Mojave contract, the same contract, 17K AZRS 0714, in the amount of $393,875.72, including tax. And then under Human Resources, we have employment, separation, and compensation for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Could we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Mr. Narducci.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
I did just have one comment.
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to thank Jenny Bracamonte and everyone at the Central Kitchen that allowed us to come in and see exactly what was going on and what was needed and how you were trying to maximize efficiencies. And thank you so much for spending the time with us.
All right. Great. That concludes our consent agenda. The next thing is from Mr. Fletcher.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Hamilton High School opened in 1998. The campus enrollment has outgrown the now antiquated kitchen, serving area, and capacity. We are proposing a scope of work that includes tenant improvements to the existing kitchen and serving line area, new equipment, demolishing the outdoor eating area and replacing it with a conditioned interior dining and multifunction space, demolishing some existing walls to create more dining areas inside, and a redesign of the front entry. The district will contract with SPS Plus Architects to provide the scope of services listed above. The current estimated construction budget is $6 million. SPS Plus Architects has proposed a fee of $330,000, which is 5.5% of the construction budget and is a fair and reasonable price for a project of this scope. We recommend approval of SPS Plus Architects in the amount of $330,000 for the Hamilton High School kitchen remodel and renovation.
Could I get a motion to
I
approve
make a
this?
motion to approve SPS Plus Architects in the amount of $330,000 for the Hamilton High School kitchen remodel and renovation.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Second?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. All those in favor?
Is there going to be some discussion or questions for Mr. Fletcher?
Oh, that's a good idea. I'm getting ahead of myself. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think Mr. Fletcher went over it so brilliantly in our one-on-ones. Hamilton has not been remodeled since it opened, and it still looks the same way that it did when I went to school there. So this will be exciting for the students. So very happy about this.
I do have one question. Will this make it possible so they could have one less lunch period?
That is out of my area.
No. Okay, thanks.
But it does enhance the opportunity for all kids to have a seat.
And out of the hallway.
But won't change
And get their food before the bell rings, yeah.
Correct.
I'm seeing head shakes from the kitchen people. Barb or Joel, do you guys have any comments or questions?
I don't have any.
I just had a question concerning, will this be something that will be able to be completed during off time where students are not in the school, or is it going to have, some of it's going to have to be done while school is in session? And if so, what are the, what are the operating procedures to keep students safe and out of the construction areas?
So the first thing we're going to do is demolish the exterior dining area and enclose that into conditioned space. That will allow us to move the kitchen operations out of the existing kitchen and into this new conditioned space, which would then allow us to go in and demolish the existing kitchen with kids on campus and no interruption of service. My team and I have worked with Mrs. Bracamonte. We are very confident and comfortable with the process. The timeline is going to be what will be challenging, Mrs. Mazda.
What are we actually kind of looking at as a timeline? Is this something that should be taking 6 months, or roughly how long?
I believe
I'm not holding it.
Well, good. Please don't hold me to that. I believe the construction will be done prior to the equipment coming, is what we're hearing right now.
Okay.
Will they be able to start will they be able to start the construction for the summer?
That is our plan right now, yes. The first goal, Mr. Olive, is to get the outside area demolished and new construction out there. That'll give us flexibility to move things around.
Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, we have a seconded motion. Let's go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. The second item for Basha is also Mr. Fletcher's.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Basha High School opened its campus in 2004. The Performing Arts Center lighting controls and rigging were standard specifications at that time. Currently, in order to service the light rack, we have to build scaffolding on uneven surfaces to repair or replace lights on the rack, which causes us concern every time we need to do this. We are proposing a scope of work that includes but is not limited to dimmer rack upgrade, LED fixtures, rigging and hoists, electronic theater controls, and digital multiplex controls, which I've had to print out a definition of theater stuff to make sure I even understood what half that was. This scope will put Basha High School on par with ACP High School and Castile High School. The district proposes to use Clearwing Systems integration to perform all scope of and services. The district would contract with Clearwing via a Mojave Educational Service contract, which complies with all school procurement rules. The estimated cost for this project is $483,748.24. We recommend approval of Clearwing Systems integration in the amount of $483,748.24 to perform the outlined scope of work above at the Basha High School Performing Arts Center.
All right, thank you. Could we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve Clearwing Systems integration in the amount of $483,748.24 to perform the outlined scope of work at the Basha High School Performing Arts Center.
Second.
All right, now we get to discuss, ask questions. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Fletcher?
I do not.
I do have one question. Do you have, is there an electrical engineer, structural engineer taking care of the stuff around these changes?
Clearwing has an engineering department, I'm being told, yes. And really, we're not doing anything structural. We're really just changing. The weight is basically the same. We're just adding the rigging so we can get the light bar up and down more efficiently.
And the reason I ask is if weight statically is different than weight in motion. So if you're adding rigging, then you're moving things.
Dead weight, live weight, we agree.
Any other questions? All right, then let's vote on this one. All those in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
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 Thank you. The motion passes. Mr. Fletcher also has Perry High School.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Perry High School opened its campus in 2007, and the Performing Arts Center is in need of a lighting upgrade. The proposed scope of work includes, but is not limited to, repairing the circuits on the front house pipe. The house pipe supports lights, microphones, and could be used for scenery. New modules for the dimmer rack, LED fixtures, and electronic theater controls. The scope of work will put Perry High School on par with ACP High School and Castile High School. The district proposes to use Clearwing Systems integration to perform all scope and services. The district would contract with Clearwing via a Mojave Educational Service contract, which complies with all school procurement rules. The estimated cost for this project is $215,256.83. We recommend approval of Clearwing Systems integration in the amount of $215,256.83 to perform the outlined scope of work at the Perry High School Performing Arts Center.
Could we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve Clear Wing Systems integration in the amount of $215,256.83 to perform the outlined scope of work at the Perry High School Performing Arts Center.
Second?
Was that a second? Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on the Perry High School Performing Arts Center lighting upgrades? If not, let's go ahead and vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. That brings us to the end of our action items. The next thing on our agenda is the CUSD Board Roadmap. I think we have coming up outstanding students, that's done, world-class employees, the public hearing on Prop 301, and the annual report is coming up on the 31st, is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
So the 31st, the annual report will be here at 7:30 in the morning, and we have about 35 guests that'll be here. That'll be a collaborative session. We'll not only go over the annual report, but we'll also be discussing our Future Ready and our portrait of a graduate, and then getting some input from our people who are attending. So a little different than we've done in the past, and so we're excited about that opportunity.
Okay, wonderful. Now that we've got you talking, Mr. Narducci, it's time for the superintendent comments.
Sure, thank you, Vice President Olive. It's always different when the different titles conducting the meeting, so thank you tonight for doing that. We have several items for you tonight. I'm constantly amazed at the ability of our students, not only in the classroom through CUSD programs, but also extracurricular. Tonight, I just would like to highlight Jenica Pry, a second grader at Charlotte Patterson Elementary, who has made the USA Gymnastic Tops National Diamond Team back in August of 2021. As one of the top 7-year-old girls in the country. Just amazing. Jenica made this national team by competing in 6 physical abilities sessions during her July 2021 TOPS test. And Jenica was thrilled to make the diamond team and continues her training as a level 4 competitive gymnast. Why I mention this is, as these kids grow up, you start to see them come back and doing these amazing things. So it's kind of nice to notice them now as they move forward. Our Basha High School cybersecurity teacher, Giadi Tamboli, was awarded the Equity in STEAM, STEAM is with the arts, grant by the YWCA Metropolitan Phoenix and Intel Involved Arizona for her project proposal to empower young girls with the knowledge of coding. Giadi has vast experience in the private sector, and we are fortunate to have her teaching one of our choice programs, which is the Basha Cybersecurity Program, which does amazing things. Our Chandler Sports Hall of Fame induction will be held on February 19th, just giving people some advance notification at Hamilton High School. The accomplishments of 7 athletes, coaches, and athletic administrators will be celebrated at the Chandler Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony and luncheon. Our inductees this year include our own Dr. Camille Castillo, our retired superintendent, who will be inducted this year for her support and outstanding programming that has happened in Chandler schools. Phil Gonzalez, Hamilton High School tennis coach. Nikhil Harry of Chandler High School and ASU fame, and now a New England Patriot. Greg Hagsma, boys basketball coach at Valley Christian. And then our own Marcus Howard, former basketball player at Perry High School, who now plays in the NBA for the Denver Nuggets. One little side note on Marcus Howard. I have a picture in my office of my daughter in a YMCA rec league who played with Marcus Howard in the rec league. Now, I don't know how many girls can say that. She's in digital marketing, never did basketball. And I think the boys' response at that time when they were young was, why does a girl have to play with us? So very interesting how those kids started out in our own YMCA programs right next door and moved through the system, and he has just made a big splash playing in the playoffs last year, which is awesome. Cole Luke of Hamilton High School, Notre Dame also, who played in the NFL, most recently for the Carolina Panthers, and Sierra Rodriguez of Basha High School. Many may know from her former ASU softball team playing as well. I want to congratulate them on their induction into the Sports Hall of Fame, which is facilitated annually through the Chandler Museum. And finally, as Malaysia Hardy mentioned earlier in her comments about Chandler High School, we were able to work with our Future Ready movements and gear of community partnerships and collaborations through, I want to thank personally Colleen Flannery and her technology team for putting this together with Mr. Michael Franklin and his team at Chandler High School. But we had a wonderful kickoff partnership with Intel and Dell Technologies. This is a very unique partnership that we talked about. It's just not a simple partnership, but it's really looking at solving problems and tackling big solutions. And I was happy that we celebrated early this morning at 7:30 with many of the Dell executives and Intel executives who flew in, specifically spent the day here, not only at Chandler High School, but also came to our district office and had a Teams meeting with our IT and tech program, which they left very excited about, but also thought this unique partnership and moving things to be future ready is where school districts need to be, and they were excited about that. Our cost for the project was $2.9 million, which you all voted on earlier this year, so I want to thank the board for that. But we also leveraged $1.6 million in devices and services discounts from Intel and Dell. So it's a true partnership, them coming in and helping us seek other solutions for how we're working to advance one-to-one technologies. And of course, the students are the bigger winners, because what we found our most vulnerable point is there is a digital divide here in Chandler, and we experienced it when we went digitally. And so we're just one step closer to closing that divide, but we have a long way to go. So I just want to thank our teams for taking on this bold work and for acknowledging that we can do it so much better and involving the best in the world, I would say, in Intel and Dell in doing that. So thank you. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Narducci. Let's start with the folks that weren't able to be here tonight. President Marsden, do you have any comments for us?
Well, yes, I would like to thank you, Jason, for running the meeting in my absence tonight. I hope to be available again and healed by our next board meeting. But I did attend today virtually a Read on Chandler meeting. They are the group that is sponsoring our Make Way for Books at San Marcos. And I wanted to let our listening public know that they still are looking or have registration open for our preschool students to enroll in the program for our Make Way for Books, and they're making great progress on it. They are not starting in person quite yet, but it will be a few more weeks, and there are openings, and they are looking to make sure that we spread the word about having a program, an early literacy program that is a parent and child participation program to help parents learn how to encourage early literacy for their preschoolers. So I'm very excited about this starting at San Marcos, and I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that that this program is available starting very soon. And that's all.
All right, thank you very much, President Marsden. Mr. Worth, do you have any comments for us?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Love? Ms. Bruner?
I did just want to echo a little bit of what Frank was saying, and just to reiterate that I'm just so impressed with the work of everyone who's made great strides in the area of technology in the last 3 years. I mean, it's been a dramatic improvement, and it's taken everybody from the people who are trying to figure out where the money's going to come from, to the people who are trying to help staff members learn how to use things, to the folks who are physically handing out laptops. And, there's just so many people. And I'm just looking forward to what else is going to come in the future. And thank you to all the partners who contributed as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for having patience with me tonight, trying to figure out how to run the meeting properly. I think we got through it all right. And other than that, I don't have any other comments or enlightened things to say that nobody doesn't already know. With that, we can close our meeting. Thank you, everybody. Bye.